$1,808 a month. That's what a 70% mental health rating pays a veteran with no dependents in 2026. And here's the part almost nobody tells you. Post-traumatic stress, depression, anxiety, bipolar, panic. The VA rates every single one of them on the exact same scale. So if a diagnosis ever made you feel like the label decides your check, stay with me, because it does not. And there is one path where a 70% rating pays you at the full 100% rate, and the VA almost never puts it in front of you. Hold on to that one.
I'm Maya, and look at what that really means. The VA does not pay you for the name of your condition. It pays you for how much of your life the condition takes. The cold fact is, one formula rates all of them.
River here, 1 scale, 6 numbers, 0, 10, 30, 50, 70, 100.
Kai here, and every one of those numbers is a paycheck. 70% is $1,808 a month for a veteran alone. 50% drops to $1,133. That gap between two tiers is real money every month.
So let's take that formula apart, the honest version. Here's the ruling up front. Your rating is set by the function you lost, not the diagnosis printed on the chart.
And here's the pivot the whole thing turns on. One appointment, the C&P exam, decides which tier you land on. Everything else is just the evidence you bring to it.
Everything in this one, plus the full VA conditions list and a free ratings tool, lives at va.professorerica.com. Maya, the comment section keeps circling one question, and it's the right place to start.
It is, and it sounds unfair until you hear the answer. People ask, if PTSD and depression use the same formula, why do two veterans with the same diagnosis get completely different ratings? Stakes first. Because the formula measures how much function you lost, not the name of the condition.
That's the whole thread we pull today. Same formula, different lives, different checks. Let's start where the ladder begins.
A percentage is not a number on a form, it's a paycheck. So let's turn these tiers into real 2026 dollars.
Start at the top of what most claims reach. 70%, the deficiencies in most areas tier, pays $1,808.45 a month for a veteran alone. Watch the gap from here.
Now drop one tier to 50%, reduced reliability and productivity. That's $1,133 a month, near enough. Think of it like a staircase, not a light switch. Each step down is a different check.
So a single step, 70 down to 50, is $675.55 every month. Every step in that staircase carries a real load. This one carries about $8,000 a year.
And the top of the ladder, 100% total occupational and social impairment, pays $3,938.58 a month. That's the ceiling.
1 step, $8,000 a year. That's why the exam matters.
So underclaiming your tier isn't humble, it's expensive. The worth it number here is $8,000 a year, handed back for one underreported step.
Okay, hold on. That's not humility. It's a tax on pride.
Exactly, and there's one number that beats every tier on this board. A path called TDIU that can pay the full 100% rate even when your rating is below 100. We hold that for later, but mark it then. First, the exam that decides which step you actually land on.
Quick honest ask while we are here. If this has been worth your time so far, hit like, then subscribe and ring the bell. I know everyone asks, but this one is free, and it is how a small channel like this actually grows. The whole ladder is decided in one appointment, the compensation and pension exam, the C&P. So let's sit with the question that decides your check. What actually separates a 50 from a 70?
This is the line that changes lives, so let me lay it out plainly. 50% is reduced reliability and productivity. You're working, but you're dropping tasks and missing deadlines. 70% is a different world. It's deficiencies in most areas at once. work and family and judgment and mood and thinking. Not one area struggling, most of them at the same time.
50 is one area buckling. 70 is most areas buckling, said once.
So River, where do the heaviest symptoms live? Because 70 names some specific ones.
Suicidal ideation, near continuous panic or depression, neglect of hygiene, impaired impulse control. Those sit at 70.
And here's the part that quietly costs veterans. The exam scores your work life and your home life together. A lot of vets white-knuckle through their job and never mention that they've stopped seeing family, stopped leaving the house. The cold fact is, if you only describe the job, you can read a full tier lower than you actually live.
That's the honesty point I want to press. Describe the whole picture, not the brave version of it.
And don't perform it. The exam catches a rehearsed answer faster than a real one.
Which is exactly the balance. Honest, complete, and not exaggerated. Describe your worst regular days and your average ones, and let the examiner weigh it. That's what the formula is built to read.
So here's where the table lands. The C&P exam is not a memory test, it's a function test. Bring your work life and your home life, describe your real range honestly, and let the CFR do the rest. 50 is reduced reliability, 70 is deficiencies in most areas. Next, the one thing PTSD adds on top. PTSD is the one condition on this list with an extra door. You don't just prove the symptoms. You prove a stressor, a specific in-service event that caused them.
And the regulation wants 3 pieces: a current diagnosis, a medical link from your symptoms back to the event, and credible evidence the event actually happened. That's the rulebook, not our opinion.
Combat makes it easier. If you saw combat, your own word can establish the stressor.
And they widened that door, which matters for a lot of veterans who never fought a pitched battle. Under the fear of hostile military or terrorist activity rule, if a VA psychologist agrees your stressor fits, your own testimony can be enough. Incoming rocket or mortar fire. An IED you drove past. The threat was real even when the paperwork is thin.
And there is a door that deserves real care. Military sexual trauma, MST. The event often never made it into any official report, so the VA uses relaxed rules. Records from a counselor, a doctor, a crisis center. Even markers, like a sudden request for transfer or a drop in job performance, can corroborate what happened.
One clarification that saves people a wasted fight. The stressor door is a PTSD thing only. Depression, anxiety, bipolar, panic, those don't need a stressor at all. They need a diagnosis and a link to service, same as any claim.
So where does all of this actually go? Onto one form. I restore an old card catalog on weekends, one labeled drawer at a time, so trust me, the right thing in the right box is everything. Maya, put the 2 boxes that carry the weight up on screen.
Look at VA Form 21-526EZ. In the condition box, you write it plainly: post-traumatic stress disorder. And in the box beside it, you name the stressor or the service-connected condition that ties it to your time in uniform.
Wait, what if the stressor never made it into my records at all?
Then you lean on exactly those relaxed rules. Buddy statements. A spouse who saw the change in you. The counselor you finally talked to years later. The record can be rebuilt from the edges.
The chat just pushed up the sharp one. If my stressor is in my head but not on paper, is my claim dead?
Not dead, no. Buddy statements and a clinician's opinion can carry a stressor the paperwork missed. Here's the ruling. Don't let a thin file talk you out of filing. Next, the symptoms that actually move you up the ladder.
A rating is only as strong as what's written down. The formula reads your records, and a rater can only score the symptoms a clinician actually recorded.
So let me walk the honest version, because this is where good claims quietly fall apart. The 70% tier names heavy symptoms: suicidal ideation, near continuous panic or depression that keeps you from functioning on your own, impaired impulse control, like unprovoked irritability, neglect of personal hygiene, difficulty adapting to stress, including at work. If you live with those and they never make it into a single treatment note, the rater does not see them, and on paper you look far better than you feel. Say the true thing to your doctor, out loud, every visit.
50 is lighter but still real. Panic more than weekly. Flat effect. Memory that drops names and directions.
And here's the number reason to care. A gap in your records reads as no symptoms. 6 silent months in your chart, and a rater scores those 6 months as fine even if you were drowning the whole time.
So the strongest claim isn't the loudest one, it's the most consistent one. The same honest symptoms, noted visit after visit, month after month.
And don't inflate it either. Honest, not performed.
Right, both directions, Maya. Don't minimize out of pride and don't exaggerate out of fear. The exam reads your real range, so give it the real range.
Because inflating backfires. An examiner who catches one exaggeration starts doubting the true symptoms too. Honesty isn't just the right call here, it's the higher odds play.
And one thing matters more than any rating on any form. If you are struggling right now or thinking about hurting yourself, please reach out. The Veterans Crisis Line is free and confidential. Dial 988, then press 1.
That number is not a last resort. It's a first call. The people on the other end are veterans too. There's no shame in picking up the phone.
Here's the piece I promised you at the very top, the one the VA almost never volunteers. It's called TDIU, Total Disability Based on Individual Unemployability. And it can pay you at the 100% rate even when your rating sits below 100.
Say that in numbers. 100% pays $3,938 a month. A 70% veteran sits at $1,808. TDIU can close that entire gap.
The door is simple. One service-connected disability at 60% or more. Like my flat, exactly enough, nothing spare. That's the bar to apply.
And here's the part that stops people cold. A single mental health condition rated 70% already clears that 60% bar by itself. You don't need a stack of conditions. 170 can be your key.
This is where I'd rather hand it to someone who lives inside these claims. Let me bring her in.
Happy to be here, and you've got the frame right. TDIU is not a rating, it's a finding that your service-connected conditions keep you from substantially gainful work. On a mental health claim, that is a very real path. The most common mistake here, veterans wait for a 100% scheduler rating that may never come, when a 70 that keeps them out of work already qualifies them to apply for the 100% pay. But you have to claim it. The VA does not hand it to you.
So what about back pay on it? How far back does TDIU actually reach?
Your effective date is generally the day the VA received the claim, 38 CFR 3.400. The date of the claim, or the date entitlement, arose, whichever is later. So file the day you're ready, because the clock starts when you file, not when you feel worse. Thanks for having me on. One parting thought before I go. Read your own file first. If a doctor already wrote that you can't hold a job because of your symptoms, half your TDIU claim is already sitting there.
That's the part nobody hands you in a pamphlet. Appreciate you jumping on. So there's the promise kept. A 70 that can pay like a 100 if it keeps you from working and if you file. Last stop. Let's put the whole ladder in one picture so you can find yourself on it.
Watch it climb. 0, diagnosed but quiet. 30 and 50, work slips. 70, most areas. 100, total.
0 to 10, diagnosed or controlled by meds, a real floor.
30 and 50 are the working tiers. You're on the job, but it's costing you.
70 is the pivot. deficiencies in most areas, and it's the tier that opens TDIU.
100 is total, not almost total. Total.
Exactly. And back to that staircase, you don't jump to the top. You climb to the step your function sets. 100 is total impairment.
Not sure where you land? Don't guess. Document honestly and let the exam place you.
Walk away with one thing. One formula, 6 rungs, and an exam that reads your real life, not the label on your chart. Here's the whole map in one line. Every mental health condition, PTSD, depression, anxiety, bipolar, panic, rides one formula, and it pays for lost function, not the label.
So tonight, pull up your own records and read them the way a ratter would. If your worst symptoms aren't written down anywhere, that's the very first thing to fix.
Next time we stay on the mental health track, and here's the hook. There's a way a 50 and a 30 combine into something bigger than either one alone. Wait until you see that math.
One formula, 6 rungs. Function, not the label. That's the episode.
If this helped, a like and a subscribe genuinely matter here. We're working through the entire VA system one benefit at a time, and every like is what surfaces the next one to a veteran who's been fighting this alone. And before you go, one for the comments. Did your C&P exam capture your real life, or did it miss most of what you actually live with? Now take what you learned and go make it count. This is Professor Erica, signing off.